Perfect. Welcome. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to today's session. We'll start the session with doing a little icebreaker just as we wait for everyone to get settled in. So just type in the chat, where are you joining us from? And if you have a business, what is your business about? What do you do? Who are your clients? Tell us about yourself. Okay. Awesome. How many participants we have as of right now? We have around 11 attendees. Let's just wait for everyone to get settled in. We have Michelle Johnson here today, registered psychologist, who will be presenting this webinar for us. Awesome. Perfect. So before we get started, I am going to go ahead and do a little land acknowledgement. So Business Link acknowledges and respects that we are on traditional land, meeting grounds, territories, gathering places, and traveling routes of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the land of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. Perfect. Now I'm going to give you guys an official introduction to today's session. We have Exploring Your Money Mindset. My name is Linda Posada, and I am the new event specialist for Business Link. For those of you who don't know me, and in this session today, you will learn to transform your money mindset, reduce financial stress, and build healthier habits for business success and personal growth. Today, the session will be presented by Michelle Johnston. Michelle is a registered psychologist, and she is the founder of Take Care Therapy Company. She specializes in helping individuals navigate financial stress, work-life balance, personal growth, and mental well-being. With that being said, Michelle, please take it over. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much, Linda. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Okay, can we see that?
Yes, we can see that perfectly.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. So whether you are a small business owner or you're someone who is thinking about starting a business, your money mindset is something that is important to pay attention to, and that's why I wanted to bring this presentation to you today. As a psychologist, I understand that the way we relate to and interact with our money is so much more than the numbers. It's deeply tied to the emotions, the beliefs, and our mental well-being. There's a number of small business owners that I work with in therapy who experience financial stress, anxiety when it comes to money, or maybe have gone through experiences in the past that also shape and influence the way that they interact with money in their business. And so I believe it's an important topic. And today, this is what I want to help you dive into a little bit deeper is learning more about this topic and the way that we can navigate financial stress. But before we dive in, I know, again, because money is often an uncomfortable topic for a lot of us, I'm curious, and people can comment in the chat, when you think about money or when you think about finances right now, what are some thoughts or feelings that come up for you? And if you feel comfortable, you can feel free to share those things in the chat. Perhaps when you think about money and you reflect on your relationship with money in your business, maybe there's a sensation that comes up for you physically in your body. Yeah, it's a resource that's required for growth. Yeah, feelings of tightness, uneasiness. Yeah, we're thinking ahead into the future. Yeah, stress, wanting to avoid. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So there's lots of different thoughts and feelings that can come up with this, that can trigger us in different ways. And so maybe before we dive in, I want to spend just a minute or so to help us get connected and to get present with where we are today. And so if it feels comfortable and if it feels available to you, feel free to just close your eyes and focus on your breathing and just Slowly focus on taking an inhale at your own pace and a slow exhale. And inhaling again at your own pace. And a slow and controlled exhale. And if thinking about money gives you any tightness or tension in your body physically, I want you to just notice where you feel that sensation. And continue to breathe slowly, inhaling and exhaling, trying to create some space for that sensation to move through you. Maybe doing a shoulder roll or a stretch if that feels comfortable. And just taking another couple of deep breaths in and out at your own pace here. Okay, and slowly you can open your eyes. And maybe just take a look at the space that you're in. If you're in an office or like me, you're in your home right now, just trying to ground yourself and connect yourself back to this present moment. And just notice what that was like for you as you gave your self some space to slow things down a little bit. Okay. So what is a money mindset? So before we dive in, I think it's important for us to all have a little bit of clarity on what we mean when I'm talking about this. Our money mindset is the set of beliefs or emotions that we have about money that influences the ways in which we earn money, how we spend it, the ways in which we save it, and overall how we feel about it. And our money mindset is often shaped by experiences from our past. However, it's not something that is set in stone. A strong mindset can fuel helpful and smart financial decisions, while a limiting mindset can often be something that holds us back, maybe in ways that we are aware of, but oftentimes it can hold us back in ways that we're unaware. But the best part of this, knowing about our mindset, is that we can take steps to improve it over time. Everything we believe about money started somewhere. So our financial choices, like I mentioned earlier, they're not just about the numbers. They are shaped by our experiences. Often these come from early childhood lessons, societal messages, or experiences of financial trauma, which I'll explain in a little bit, that play a role, again, with how we interact and the relationship that we have with money. These beliefs follow us into our business and can influence almost every decision that we make, whether they are big decisions or small decisions. These things can definitely play a role. Looking at the impact of early money experiences, societal messages, and financial trauma, so where our mindset is shaped. Often, as a psychologist, I help a lot of clients look at their early childhood experiences and how the past has influenced things that are coming up for them in the present. And so when we frame this in regards to money, I often ask clients, how was money talked about in your family? Was it an open conversation, or was it something that was viewed as a taboo topic? Were there messages that you heard like, we can't afford that, or there's never enough? And how might those things be still influencing you today? Certain messages can contribute to an unhealthy relationship with money and fuel or reinforce mindsets around scarcity. and then also contribute to feelings of shame around finances, or they can reinforce fear and drive fear-based financial decisions, limiting us from investing either in ourselves or the growth of our business. Messages about money can also come from society. So you may hear certain myths like money doesn't grow on trees. Well, that one is a fact in a sense, but other things like the rich get richer. These things create, again, further limiting beliefs, which drive scarcity and drive fear. The more that we buy into and believe these things, they also have a powerful way of impacting how we feel and impacting the actions and decisions that we take within our business, and often get in the way of how we see wealth, how we view success, what that means to us, or our ability to take risks in terms of how we navigate finances, especially in our business or even personal life. And then financial trauma. This is the experience of emotional distress that results from either single events or chronic experiences of stressful financial experiences. Can look like things like an unexpected loss, whether that might be a divorce or an experience of a job loss or an accident that impacted or limited your ability to work or make an income. Or it could be even the loss of a business if you've ever had to close down a business and start over. It could be dealing with debt and dealing with debt for a long period of time. Or also the influence of things going on in our economy or the political climate that leave a lasting impact on us and again contribute to certain kinds of unhelpful behaviors when it comes to dealing with our money, often driving fear-based or avoidance type of behaviors. I'm curious to hear from some of you in the chat. What are some of the scripts or beliefs or narratives around money that you can recall, either things maybe you've picked up from childhood or family dynamics or things that you hear around in society in general? Feel free to share any messages or notes or beliefs in the chat.
Hi, Michelle. I do have a question for you. So, perfectionism and people pleasing it's very common among business owners, especially those in client-facing roles. How are these business owners able to set boundaries and overcome the fear of disappointing others?
Yeah, that's a good question. It takes practice to be able to set boundaries and to be able to say no. I think in order to be able to set boundaries, we first have to develop the awareness of what our boundaries are and what is causing us to feel uncomfortable, right? And once we know that, then it's getting the courage to be able to speak up and knowing how we can set that boundary without the fear of letting someone down, right? That knowing that someone might not be happy with a boundary that we set in place, but it's also not our ability or within our control to control how they feel, essentially. So it's, yeah, learning to be confident in setting boundaries takes time.
Yes, absolutely. We do have a few comments here in the chat. We have
Mm.
Shalini that says, don't have enough money. We follow Gandhi, having no material things, receiving no material things, providing for our way with bread labor, giving our labor in exchange of the bread we receive for the day.
Yeah, I see other messages here about money. You can't make money doing what you love. I need to make sure people feel my fees are fair and affordable. It's less important what I feel is fair and what I'm worth. Yeah, there's lots of these beliefs and messages that we have about money that can be deeply, deeply ingrained. and impact us in our business in terms of how much we're charging for services, in terms of our boundaries around our rates or services, lots of different things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Many entrepreneurs and small business owners struggle with financial anxiety. What are some practical strategies that they can use to manage this financial stress while staying focused in their business goals?
We will definitely get into that towards the later parts of my presentation. I definitely have some tools I've prepared that I can share with you guys. So I appreciate that question.
For sure. Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, let's go back in. So one approach, and I appreciate everybody sharing those different beliefs and narratives around money that they've experienced or perhaps that they're carrying. One approach that I use with clients in my work as a psychologist, as a therapist, is the CBT model. CBT stands for cognitive behavioral therapy. And if you are a therapist and you're joining this webinar today, you'll know exactly what I mean. This is an evidence-based approach. If you're someone who's done therapy yourself, you may have experienced this approach with your own therapist as well. And so you may be familiar with it for other types of presenting concerns. CBT is something that they call the gold standard for lots of different mental health challenges such as anxiety or depression. And really the essence of this model, if you look at the triangle that I have on the screen here over on the right, is that our thoughts and our feelings and actions are all interconnected. So each one influences the other. And when we frame this in regards to money, we see that what we think about money or what we believe about it has a direct influence on how it makes us feel, the emotions that it brings up, or some of the physical sensations, which we talked about earlier. And then as a result of experiencing those feelings or those sensations, and those thoughts, they have a direct impact on the actions, the things that we do or the things that we don't do as a result of the things that our mind is telling us or the feelings that are showing up. And so they're really the driving force behind the financial choices or actions, whether or not we realize this in our business. So in having the awareness, and this is where, when we talk about how do I deal with financial stress or anxiety, the work that I do with clients is we dive a little bit deeper into, what are all of these thoughts, right? When we go with step one here, identifying these automatic thoughts, and I use that word automatic thought because sometimes they come out of nowhere, right? We might not be consciously thinking about it, but that thought might just pop up into our head of, I have to work really hard in order to earn enough. It's maybe a belief that is deeply ingrained, but we might have that thought automatically pop up, or, I never have enough. When we are aware of what those thoughts are, then we can move down to step two and start to explore the thoughts that are unhelpful with a sense of curiosity. And what I mean by unhelpful is these thoughts are not contributing to the life that we want to be living. They maybe are getting in the way of our goals or the things that we want to be doing or achieving in our business. And we want to approach them with a curious mindset, and saying, in what way is this thought maybe holding me back, right? But also maybe there's a way that this thought is trying to protect me or keep me safe. Someone asked here, what did CBT stand for? It stands for cognitive behavioral therapy. And then step three, once we've explored that thought and we've kind of identified, okay, it's unhelpful for me right now, it's not serving me, but it's there, we can work towards shifting towards a more balanced and empowered mindset. And I'll get into a little bit what that looks like. Does anybody have any questions here about CBT or this model? Okay. So this is where we can look at unhelpful thinking styles and money. How can we break free from some of these limiting beliefs? I'll never be good with money. So when we talk about shifting or reframing an unhelpful thought, really we're talking about changing our perspective, changing the way we think about it, exploring, is there a thought perhaps that I don't believe or buy into quite yet, but I'm open to exploring. I'm open to trying it out and seeing, when I think this way, how does it influence how I feel? So I'll never be good with money. One way, and there's many different ways, but one way would be to reframe it as I can learn how to manage money, right? Notice the shift that happens, and it might be a subtle shift, but when we say, I can learn how to manage money. Another one that may be an unhelpful thought or a limiting belief is making money is always a struggle, right? And that word there, always, it's a little bit extreme, right? If I believe that it's always a struggle, that's going to hold me back, and I'm not going to be necessarily willing or open to exploring something different than what I'm used to. So when we reframe or shift that thought, one way is to say, I'm open to finding new and different ways to create income. That might lead to other thoughts of, there's other, maybe something I haven't tried before, other ways of doing something I'm just not used to. But again, I'm open to learning how to do that, or I'm capable of figuring it out. So it's just a subtle shift in our language when we talk about reframing or shifting some of these thoughts. And it takes practice. Another example of an unhelpful thought, and I know for therapists that I meet with, it's the market is saturated. There's no way I'll stand out, right? We know in Calgary, there's lots of psychologists, there's lots of therapists, and maybe for you in your business, your niche, you might feel the same way. But a way that we can reframe that is to say, or tell ourselves, I have something unique to offer. And I'll focus on what makes my business stand out and focus on that. These shifts, again, they're subtle, but they are just ways that we can feel a little bit more empowered, a little bit focused more towards what is in our control. And then another example, if I don't hustle 24/7, I'll fail, right? This one I would say is a very unhelpful belief because it can feed into burnout, right? And working beyond our capacity. To reframe that, we can explore the thought, I can create systems that will help me work smarter, and rest helps to fuel my productivity. What do you notice when we work to shift this slightly and try to think about this in a different way? Okay. Recognizing the impact of financial stress. So when we experience stress, our nervous system, our brain, and our body goes into a state of fight, flight, or freeze, right? And often that can get in the way of us acting effectively, right? We're not able to think clearly if we are feeling anxious, if we are feeling stressed. We may be more likely to avoid certain things that especially feel uncomfortable, right? And we might get stuck. We might do things that are, unhelpful or self-sabotaging behaviors. And so it's really important that when, financial stress is showing up in our business, that we are able to recognize it so that we can take some action to deal with it and to help ourselves cope and navigate through it. We all know, I think, generally different signs of stress or anxiety and how that can show up for us in terms of our emotions or in terms of how it feels for us physically. Anxiety can often feel like this feeling of maybe some restlessness in our body, or it's a feeling like a sinking feeling in our stomach, or maybe it's a tightness in our chest. Maybe it's a feeling that it's hard to breathe. And if we're noticing any of these things when we're handling money in our business, maybe we're checking our bank account or something like that, and we experience that feeling, that might be a sign that, yeah, I'm dealing with some financial related anxiety. Same thing for stress, right? If I'm losing sleep over thinking about money in my business, if it's something that I can't stop thinking about or can't stop worrying about it, that might be a sign that, I'm experiencing quite a lot of financial stress, and feeling really stuck. And so other ways that it can show up, I've listed some examples here, but feel free to share in the chat as well, things maybe you've experienced or you're aware of, different ways it can show up. The first one for me personally, I experienced this, avoiding bookkeeping tasks, right? And this is something that for me, because it's a task I don't really enjoy, it doesn't feel fun. And so I'd rather not do that, right? I like spending time working with clients and interacting with them. And so when it comes to some of these more administrative or accounting type tasks, it's easy to put them off, at least for me, when it comes to my business. And then the problem with that is that these things pile up and they end up taking more time versus had we just tackled it then and there. Other examples of financial stress in our business could be not checking monthly financial reports, right? So if your bookkeeper or your accountant is sending you stuff, we're just not even opening that email, right? Or if we're getting bank statements, again, emailed or in the mail to us, these things are piling up and we're not looking at them because it makes us feel uncomfortable. It might be that we have difficulty creating or sticking to a budget, right? Or maybe we've made the budget, right? I love to use Excel and make a really beautiful, pretty spreadsheet, but then we don't go back in and update it, or it's out of sight, out of mind. So when we're spending, we're unaware of where that cash flow is going and how much we've allocated to each category because it's not front of mind. And we have this maybe feeling of guilt, right? When we go to spend money or when we finally look at the budget and see, where we've been spending. It could be that we're delaying invoicing or following up with clients on overdue payments. Maybe we're worried about what the client's going to say, right? Or maybe we're worried about confrontation. If we say, okay, you owe me this much, we might worry about what their reaction might be or how this might impact their financial situation. And so that's contributing to some procrastination. Constantly worrying about how we're going to cover expenses. So again, if you're constantly checking your bank account and you're, thinking to yourself, yeah, there's not enough, how am I going to get by, right? What am I going to do? Where do I have to cut back, right? We have this constant sense of worry and dread, which can then lead into other forms of unhelpful behaviors, right? If we're a service-based business, we're maybe taking on everyone who isn't necessarily a good fit for us, right? Or we're slashing prices because we're just trying to make a sale. As well, not raising prices because we fear losing clients, right? We fear that they won't be able to afford our new rate or how much we're charging for a product. We fear that customers might, be turned away. And in this sense, we might not be actually recognizing our true value or our own self-worth within our business. Challenges with setting financial boundaries. So like what was mentioned earlier, right? We find it hard to say no to clients, or, we want to keep their business. So we say yes to some requests that maybe are unreasonable or, not within our business plan or the type of work that we're able to effectively do for them. Procrastinating over having financial conversations or seeking financial help, right? It's just maybe the feeling of it's so overwhelming to find a bookkeeper, to find an accountant, to find a financial planner or an advisor. I don't even know where to look. I don't even know where to start. So we just don't do anything at all, right? Or we feel maybe a sense of shame or embarrassment about our financial situation. And so, we don't want to, bring those documents or copies of our financial statements to anyone out of fear of judgment, right? I totally get that. Difficulty with investing in opportunities for business growth, right? Especially if you're a solopreneur and you're on your own. There might be a lot of different hats that you're wearing, but to pay somebody to do, one of those other things that you're taking responsibility for right now, feels like it's something that's out of reach. And so we're sacrificing our time and energy to try and do so many things, and it might be taking away from the actual work that we want to be doing in our business because we're spread so thin, right? And we maybe are uncertain about the outcome of, if I invest money in my marketing, what is going to be that return, right? If we've never done this before. And then also emotional spending, impulse buys, overspending, right? So if we're feeling stressed about something, maybe we look to, okay, what's the quick, easy solution? We spend money on that, and maybe it's actually not a very good use of our money. Maybe it's not a good, helpful investment for us, but because we were so overwhelmed and that service or that business was, marketing it in a way that was speaking to our needs, we just went with that first option rather than exploring or researching maybe what was most suitable or felt better for our needs. An impulse buy, right? Maybe it's this latest gadget or, technology thing that we want to update in our business because we think, okay, this is going to make things quicker or more efficient, but then it also takes us time to learn how to use that technology. And it costs a lot of money that maybe we don't have set aside right now. We're not able to afford it at this time. Or overspending on things because we're not necessarily tracking, again, where that money could be going. And so these are just a few ways that financial stress can impact our business. And there's lots and lots of different ways when I work with clients that these things can show up, and that we work to explore and create different strategies around. But ultimately, it's also about removing a lot of the shame or blame or feelings of guilt that we have when it comes to dealing with money in our business. So how can we shift and shift to a more empowered perspective? A lot of the work that I do with clients is around shifting to values-based decision-making and aligning our financial choices with core personal and business values. And so earlier I mentioned CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy approach, but another approach I use a lot in my practice is something called acceptance and commitment therapy. And this is really where we look to shift what are choices or actions that I'm doing right now, and are these in alignment with what's important to me? Are these taking me closer towards the person that I want to be, the kind of business owner that I want to be, the type of business that I want to have, the goals that I set out to achieve for myself, or are these things that are pulling me further away, right? Am I falling off track? And if so, what is causing me to do that? What is getting in the way? What are the unhelpful thoughts that are getting in the way? How are these emotions showing up that are impacting me and taking over and getting in the way? And how do we get ourselves back on track, right? And I really like using acceptance and commitment therapy because it really, again, takes away just some of the intensity of the emotions that show up, right? And understanding that we're all human, right? And so to some degree, we've all experienced challenges with our money, right? Maybe some of us grew up in situations where money was not an issue, and it was managed well, and we learned really healthy behaviors. But maybe there's some ways that it still impacts us, right? And for those of us who struggle with our relationship with money, it's just a way to say, you know what, if we can accept that it's a challenge, we can then free ourselves to start taking steps towards actions that are more aligned with what's important to us. So I've included some questions here to help get us thinking about how we would apply this to our business, and how we would apply this to our certain our situation right now. So looking at what is it that truly matters to you in your business and in your life, right? Is it a value of freedom? Or are you someone who values creativity, right? Do you value the impact that your business, that you want your business to be able to provide? Thinking about those things, what is it that truly matters to me? And I'd love if people feel comfortable again to share some things in the chat. What are some of those values? Yeah, writing out values for the business are important. A great guide for the what and why of the business. Yeah, we can use values as a framework, right? As a framework to guide us and something to check in with and keep us accountable to say, okay, am I on track? Is what I'm doing, not only the things I'm doing in the business, but in terms of how I'm managing my money and finances, are these aligned with my values? Something else to reflect on is, why did I start my business? Right? Reflecting on going back to the very beginning, why did I decide to start this business? And what kind of difference do I want it to make? Right? If I'm offering a service and my goal was to help a particular type of person, maybe because I've experienced uh, some things that they've also maybe are going through and I can relate and I want to make a difference, right? But then I'm taking on clients who are not a good fit. I'm not necessarily staying in line with my values in that sense, right? And that can contribute to symptoms of burnout, right? If I'm working with individuals who are not a good fit for me, I'm trying to help everyone instead of helping those who I'm going to be most effective with. These things can start to take us off track and make us question, what is it that I'm doing right now, right? How is this getting in the way? Another question is, how do I want my business to support my lifestyle and well-being? Right. And I think for many entrepreneurs, we start a business because we want it to be a source of income that's going to be supporting us and able to feed us, right? Give us an income and help us afford the things in our life that are important to us and improve our well-being, right? Within having our own business, maybe our value is along the lines of having some freedom to do things the way that we want to, and to have freedom over our time or our schedule. But if we get into the habit of feeling I have to work 24/7 in order to be successful, then that's really going to be spilling into my lifestyle and having a negative impact on my well-being. So these questions are important just to help us get back on track and see, yeah, where am I currently and where do I want to be going? And then looking at what type of work energizes me versus what drains me. Am I prioritizing the right opportunities? Again, am I saying no because this just isn't a good fit for me, right? There's something about what this client needs or this interaction that, yeah, just doesn't feel right. And so saying no is going to, be the thing that re-energizes me in order to help the clients that are a better fit. When we make choices that are aligned with our values, not only will we feel more fulfilled, we'll also feel more confident in the decisions we make because they are in line with our true goals, not the myths or outside pressure. I think it is all too easy, especially with social media, to make some of these comparisons and see, what other people are doing or what's happening for them in their business, and feel like we're stuck or we should be further ahead. And again, those types of thoughts and comparisons can really impact the relationship that we have with money and how it shows up in our business. So some practical strategies. So for those of you who asked, yeah, how can I manage the anxiety or the stress a little bit better? This slide is for you. The key is really about being intentional with our actions when it comes to dealing with our finances. And so the biggest piece of advice is to start small, right? But start now. Progress beats perfection every time, right? So think about it this way, that if I just take one small step towards maybe it's opening up that spreadsheet and just looking at the numbers, right? That's at least one step in the right direction. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? But at least it got me one step closer towards my goal, or it was a step that I took that was aligned with my values, right? If we can make it a daily habit to check in with our money in our business, that can also help to alleviate some of the financial stress and anxiety, because we'll know or have a bit of a better sense of what's going on, right? And I say here, doing 5 minutes of something is better than nothing, right? So even if it's 5 minutes of going through our emails or those financial statements and looking at them, right? Versus just avoiding them altogether. 5 minutes of going through our invoicing, or 5 minutes of doing our bookkeeping, carving out that time for ourselves, and just doing a little bit and breaking it down to the smallest step and starting with that. Setting clear and actual goals, again, based on our personal and business vision, not fear or comparison. Yeah, someone said, open that spreadsheet. Yeah, start with the first step, right? Maybe break it down even smaller. Maybe it's I just need to open up my laptop, or maybe I just need to sit down at my desk, right? What is the first smallest step that our brain would be willing to do? Reframing the unhelpful thoughts. So what we looked about earlier, right? Switching out the I'm not good with money to something that's more focused in the present, right? I'm learning and I'm capable. And noticing what that shift does for us. How does that make us feel? Tracking our expenses, right? When we go to purchase something, or tap our card or tap our phone, does this purchase align with my values, right? Is this something that's going to be helpful? And is this something necessary right now? Working smarter, not harder. So financial clarity comes from strategy, not stress, right? If we can create systems in our business that can help us work more efficiently or more effectively, right? Examples may be automating bill payments, so that we don't have to constantly be going in and doing those ourselves, right? It's one less thing that we take off of our plate. It might be that I once a month have a day where I set it aside, and maybe that's a bit of a money date for myself, and I look at the financials in the business and what's going on and where things are going. But I've carved out that time, just like how I might make time for clients or other activities that I would be doing in my business, right? Automating things is definitely something that I find very helpful, so that we don't even have to think about it. Considering the impact, how does this choice affect me in the short term? And then how does it also affect me in the long term, right? We can also think about this in terms of, if we're avoiding something, what is the cost of avoiding this in the short term versus the long term? It might feel good. It might be helpful for us to avoid it in the short term, right? Because it's like, I just don't have to deal with it. But often there's a consequence for us in the long term that's going to be a lot bigger than had we just dealt with it right here, right now. Explore the worst case scenario, right? So fear is often bigger than the actual risk, right? So it's like, if I decide to start my business, there's a fear, there's a risk associated with that. What if nobody shows up? What if I don't sell anything? What if nobody comes to my shop? What if nobody buys from me? What is that worst case scenario, right? And if we explore that worst case scenario, we can identify it and ask ourselves, well, how would I deal with that, right? What are ways I've dealt with it in the past? I like that. Set a timer and do it for 15 minutes, right? Just to do something for 15 minutes. And then when that timer goes off, we can decide, do we want to keep going with it, or are we done? And then again, going back to setting financial boundaries, right? Saying no to the unprofitable work, right? This is not going to move the needle that far. This is not going to make a huge difference. If anything, it might be something that's draining me. It's taking away my energy, my time, my resources. It's costing me more to take on this work than I'm getting from it. So being able to recognize that and say no, and learning that it's okay to say no. There might be somebody else or another service or another business who's able to meet this person's need. might allow us the ability to walk away and preserve our resources. So I hope this gives you guys some helpful tools and strategies, some tips on how to navigate financial stress and ways that we can reframe our mindset around this. And really quickly, I just wanted to share. So for those of you who are interested, I am going to be running a financial therapy group, which actually starts next week. It's an in-person group that we're running over the course of 6 weeks for people who are located in Calgary. We're going to be going through financial experiences of financial trauma, ways to release financial shame, and how we can, again, heal our relationship with money, diving in much, much, much deeper than we're able to on this webinar today. We'll be meeting, yes, over the course of 6 weeks for 1 hour each week on Wednesday evenings. And if anyone is interested, I believe the link is going to be shared to register in the chat. And it starts February 19th. The benefit of working with a psychologist when it comes to money-related issues is if you have private health insurance or benefits through your employer, often insurance covers the cost of group therapy or individual therapy. So if this is something you're interested, then I definitely encourage you to explore and sign up. And then I've just got my last slide here, a reminder that you are your greatest investment. And then my contact information, if anyone wants to reach out or follow me on Instagram or get in touch, feel free to send me an email. I look forward to connecting with you.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much, Michelle, for this amazing session. Seriously, this has been such an insightful session, and yeah, just financial stress and this limiting beliefs, can feel very overwhelming. But you have given us such wonderful insights and practical ways to navigate this, right? Again, we appreciate your time and expertise. And if anybody would like to learn more about Michelle and what she does and how she can help your business or yourself, for sure, please feel free to contact her. You will be able to find her details on the right panel under the speaker section. You will be able to join her website, email her, and whatnot. Before we move on to the Q&A, I do want to let you guys know that this session is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So just stay tuned by joining to our newsletter. Our newsletter goes out on a weekly basis, and you can stay up to date on our blogs, on our upcoming webinars, on our community schedule. But again, Michelle, thank you so much. And everyone, we hope that you found this webinar very valuable. And of course, we look forward to seeing you. But let's just open the floor for some questions. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to just put those on the Q&A panel or just in the chat. Is there anything else you would like to add to this, Michelle?
I will add, for those that are still on here, that yes, if anyone is interested in exploring financial therapy, I am accepting new clients. I offer a free 15-minute consultation that can be done either in virtually or over the phone. If anyone wants to chat a little bit more and learn about it or learn how it may be of benefit to you, I'm always open to talking more about it and discussing these things a little bit further. And I'm able to support any individuals across Alberta, either virtually or in person if you're in Calgary.
Perfect, amazing. Excuse me, I see that we don't really have too many questions here in the chat, but I did have some questions on my own, Michelle. You know, many people do feel trapped in this cycle. Even myself, I find myself just being trapped in this cycle. I'm able to recognize this, right? But sometimes I'm just not able to break free from it. What are some just first steps that I can take to just regain a sense of control?
I think some good first steps are to identify who are people that you feel comfortable talking about this to, right? Whether it's someone like a therapist, whether it's, maybe a friend, or maybe you do some of your own research and you look for someone that's a financial professional. In that case, I would recommend looking for someone in terms of like a fee-only financial planner or a fee-only financial advisor, someone who's not going to try and sell you things that you might not need. But when you recognize it, it's building up the courage just to talk about it with someone, right? And maybe that might lead you um, to some information or another resource that could help you on your next step of this journey, right? But also being compassionate with yourself, that knowing that, yeah, it's a hard thing to talk about and it's a hard thing to get unstuck, and it takes time.
It is for sure, yes. Sometimes we just feel so ashamed to bring these things up and talk about them, right? Just because of the taboo that there is around these conversations. Um, you did talk a little bit about, how stress does manifest in the body, but are there any like specific symptoms on our body and our minds that we can watch out
Yeah.
for?
It might be the feelings of like lots of physical tension, right? If you maybe are also experiencing low energy, right? Or maybe it's again, feelings of restlessness, right? Feelings of like, you know, we're thoughts that are spiraling, right? Or just feelings of being stuck, totally frozen, unable to take a step forward. There are so many different ways that stress can show up, and they can be big signs, or they can be these small, more subtle like cues that build up over time.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you so much again, Michelle, for this
Yeah,
amazing and valuable session. Sorry,
I
you're
see a
you
couple
have a
questions
very relatable
about
approach. Sorry.
book. Yeah, sorry, I see a question about books that I'd recommend on the subject. So I have one here. I don't know if it'll show because my camera is blurred, but it's called the Financial Anxiety Solution. And it's actually a step-by-step workbook to stop worrying about money, take control of your finances, and live a happier life. It's by someone who is a financial therapist. Her name is Lindsay Bryan Podvin, and I would recommend her workbook. Again, it's the Financial Anxiety Solution. And it has a lot of reflection questions and different exercises to help explore financial anxiety and different strategies and tips as well, if it's something that you're interested in learning more. It's
So
available
much.
on Amazon or online. And then the question about mindset traits. It varies, definitely. I would say it's people who tend to maybe think more on the mindset traits in terms of financially successful. So I would say definitely people who have a more open mindset. They're open to learning, they're open to doing things differently. People who again, are more aligned with their values and connected to what's important. We're aware of what's important to us. Um, and financial success looks different for everyone, right? So we've uh, defined what that looks for us and are doing things, taking action towards living in that way. I would say, yeah, there's not necessarily, at least that I'm aware of, a specific set of traits, but I definitely think it's people who are, yeah, open-minded and willing to learn and willing to explore these things and not operating out of places of fear or avoidance.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle. Once again, this webinar will be made available in our YouTube channel. So just stay tuned for our follow-up email, which will include the recording and just a short survey. We want to know what you think about our webinars. We always want to bring engaging content and valuable content for you, for Alberta small business owners and entrepreneurs. So yes, we would really appreciate if you would take just a minute to answer the survey. Thank you so much again, Michelle. Any closing remarks?
Mm-hmm. No, that's everything. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's attended.
Perfect. Everyone have an amazing day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.